Star Trek, the next generation's most influential invention, isn't what you think. When fans talk about Star Trek, the next generation's most influential invention, they usually gravitate to the obvious icons: the holodeck, the Enterprise D's sleek design, the LCARS interface, or even the show's reimagined take on warp travel. These innovations left fingerprints across science fiction and real-world technology alike. But while phaser upgrades and warp nacelles get the spotlight, TNG's most influential and most overlooked technological contribution is something subtler, more philosophical, and arguably more transformative than any touchscreen panel. It's the replicator. At first glance, the replicator seems like just another cool Starfleet gadget, an ultra-futuristic vending machine that creates tea Earl Grey hot. But TNG used the replicator to push far bigger ideas: the end of material scarcity, the foundation of Trek's post-capitalist society, and a redefinition of human purpose in a world where survival is no longer a struggle. The holodeck may have captured the imagination. The replicator rewired the fundamental rules of civilization. Why we overlook the replicator? The replicator is everywhere in TNG, in 10 Forward, in crew quarters, in sickbay, yet rarely treated as a narrative centerpiece. It gets played as routine, even mundane, because in the 24th century it is mundane. Characters don't marvel at it any more than we marvel at microwaves or internet access. The holodeck gets dramatic episodes. Warp cores get technobabble heroics. Even transporters get philosophical debates. But the replicator? It quietly exists, sustaining everything while the camera looks elsewhere. That subtlety is exactly why it's so easy to underestimate. The real reason Star Trek has no money. The Next Generation marked a massive shift in Trek's world building. It explicitly depicted a society that had moved beyond money, wages, and economic inequality. People didn't work to survive, they worked to grow, explore, and contribute. Captain Picard summed it up elegantly in The Neutral Zone. Greater than the acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force in our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity. This wasn't just idealism. It was enabled by replicator technology. No replicators, limited resources, competition hierarchy. Replicators, abundant essential social evolution post-scarcity society. Food, clothing, medicine, tools, all freely available on demand. The Federation's entire societal model rests on the idea that no one can control resources because resources are effectively infinite. In other words, the replicator didn't just change technology, it changed the human condition. The holodeck entertains, the replicator liberates. Imagine a world with holodecks, but no replicators. You could play in simulations, but you'd still need to farm to eat. You'd still have class divides, famine, hoarding, and trade-driven conflict. Now imagine a world with replicators, but no holodecks. People might be less entertained, but society would still be equal, stable, and prosperous. The holodeck changes leisure. The replicator changes civilization. The replicator isn't just about food. Food synthesis gets most of the attention, but TNG expands the replicator's capabilities far beyond hot meals. Engineering parts and tools solving crises without supply chains. Medical instruments and organics supporting emergency treatment. Clothing and personal items eliminating manufacturing labor. Starship repair backups reducing logistical dependency. It's not infinite, of course. Replicators can't create antimatter, warp cores, or complex lifeforms. They still require energy, raw matter stores, and programming. But within functional limits, they collapse entire industries into a single wall-mounted panel. Where the Industrial Revolution made production efficient, the replicator made production irrelevant. A technology of moral philosophy. The replicator isn't just a plot device, it's a narrative thesis. TNG asserts that technology should free humanity from survival-driven systems so we can pursue moral growth. The show contrasts this repeatedly with alien cultures that lack similar abundance. Ferengi cling to profit because scarcity still defines value. Klingons maintain warrior culture because life remains hard and honor-driven. Romulans pursue power because resources must be controlled, not shared. The Federation's ethics, diplomacy, compassion, exploration aren't just cultural preferences. They are luxuries of abundance. When everyone has enough, moral evolution becomes possible. The replicator is the engine of that ethical leap. the invention that predicts our future. Here's where TNG becomes truly prophetic. Modern technology is slowly replicator bound. Look at developing fields today: 3D printing on demand, physical manufacturing, synthetic biology, grown medicine and materials, fusion energy and renewables, near infinite clean power, AI, automated production, labor-free supply chains. None of these are replicators alone, but together they form a roadmap. The replicator isn't a fantasy, it's a trajectory. Once manufacturing becomes as accessible as downloading files, scarcity economics collapses. That doesn't automatically create utopia. We may choose greed over equality, but the potential for transformation mirrors Trek's vision. If any TNG technology could reshape our world in real life, it's not warp drive, it's not phasers. It's the thing that eliminates hunger, poverty, and resource wars. The threat of the replicator. Trek rarely shows the darker possibilities, but they haunt the edges of the idea. Infinite duplication could destroy originality, value, craftsmanship. Military replication could destabilize civilizations instantly. Control over replicator programming becomes the new power structure. Scarcity might vanish, but control never does. That's why Deep Space Nine introduced rules, rationing, and replicator limits. Trek knew that power doesn't disappear simply because resources do. In a world without markets, the new currency is access. The replicator is the heart of Star Trek's idealism. Ultimately, the next generation is remembered for its diplomacy, ethics, and intellectual optimism. But those traits could only exist because the show built a technological foundation where survival no longer defined identity. The replicator gives humanity freedom from need, freedom from economic hierarchy, freedom to pursue purpose. It is the invisible architecture behind every enlightened speech Picard ever gave. The most influential inventions aren't always the flashiest. Sometimes they're the quiet machines running in the corner of every starship, shaping society one cup of Earl Grey at a time. And that is why the next generation's most important invention isn't what you think. It's the replicator, the device that made utopia possible. Once manufacturing becomes as accessible as downloading files, scarcity economics collapses. That doesn't automatically create utopia. We may choose greed over equality, but the potential for transformation mirrors Trek's vision. If any TNG technology could reshape our world in real life, it's not warp drive. It's not phasers. It's the thing that eliminates hunger, poverty, and resource wars. The threat of the replicator. Trek rarely shows the darker possibilities, but they haunt the edges of the idea. Infinite duplication could destroy originality, value, craftsmanship. Military replication could destabilize civilizations instantly. Control over replicator programming becomes the new power structure. Scarcity might vanish, but control never does. That's why Deep Space Nine introduced rules, rationing, and replicator limits. Trek knew that power doesn't disappear simply because resources do. In a world without markets, the new currency is access.